Welcome to Information Security course, and the chapter that we are going to cover today is about internet security. We'll be talking about how the internet and email functions, and then we'll describe how the attackers can use the browser vulnerabilities, malvertising, and drive-by downloads to spread the malware. I list some of the security risks associated with the emails, and then describe how to use web browser settings and browser additions to create stronger security, and then we list several internet security best practices. So the objectives are, after completing this chapter, you should be able to explain how the internet and email functions. Then you'll be able to describe how attackers can use the browser vulnerabilities and malvertising by drive-by the downloads, and how they can spread the malwares across the network. List the security risks using the emails. How can we use it in a best possible way so that we can protect our computers and the network overall from spreading the viruses and any worms which arrive through the emails. Then describe how to use the web browser settings and different versions and the security features which are available in the internet browsers. Then we'll be listing several internet security best practices. Now, just to talk about how the internet works. Internet is a global network that allows devices connected to exchange information. As we all know that no one owns the internet, but it is a network of networks where all different devices are connected to the internet and they are sharing certain information. They could be emails, attachments, video files, documents, PDF, Excel sheets, and anything that we are doing on our regular basis. Composed of the networks to which the devices are attached, and no one is owning the internet. It's or regulating it by any organization or entity. Computer loosely to make the internet a global information resource where everyone can get the information from these computers. And two main internet web tools are World Wide Web, which we call it as www, and the emails that we are sending and receiving for official or unofficial purposes. Now, World Wide Web, better known as the web, internet servers, or the computers that provide online information in a specific format which we can read and understand. The language which is used in the back end on developing irregular dynamic pages, regular static or dynamic pages, is HTML. Now, the pages which are not connected to the databases are usually made on the language which is HTML, hypertext markup language. With basic stuff, have no database connectivity and basic information. If we want to develop some applications, we'll be developing it in different programming languages like ASP.NET or C# or any other language which is used these days. PHP is quite common, and then Python is used as well. HTML is used to allow the authors to combine the text and graphics and images, like we can see on the websites with the hyperlinks. When we are clicking, it's taking us to different pages on the website or outside the website. We use different browsers in order to browse the internet. It displays the word, pictures, and the elements and lots of other things as part of the web page, whatever is uploaded or updated by the webmaster of that website. Now, World Wide Web is just giving an example of the HTML which is appearing over here. It has a starting tag, and then it has the head of it. Then it has a body where we are defining the text characteristics and the color coding, and whether the text is bold, size of the text, and the information which is appearing. And then there is a small script over here which is showing the JavaScript which is embedded inside the HTML code. Now, Hypertext Transport Protocol, which we call it as HTTP standards, or the protocols used for web servers to distribute the HTML documents. That's how the web servers will recognize that this is a website or a web page which is hosted on a web server. Subset of the Transmission Control Protocol is TCP/IP protocol. Now, web browsers on the user's computer sends a request to remote web servers. They'll be requesting some information, and then they'll be getting a response from the server with the HTML pages. Web server responds by sending the HTML document and to the user to the local computer, and the user web browser displays that document as the piece of information which appears on their on their computer. Now, as you can see that a PC sent an HTML request to the web server, and it sent the HTML document back to the computer so that they can view the information which is appearing. Transfer and store process: entire document is transferred and then stored on the local computer before the browser can display it, and create the opportunities by sending different type of malicious code to the user computers. Now, since we are requesting a page to be displayed from the remote server, now once that page would arrive on your computer, it would have all the embedded pictures and documents which the webmaster has uploaded on the web server, and you'll be able to see it on your computer through the web browser. Now, emails are estimated over 2.3 million emails are sent per second over to the internet. Now, there are different email services which are available on the internet. Depends what kind of service you're using. The organizations or the companies, sometimes they are relying on the email services provided by the hosting company, or you can have your own email service by setting up your own Exchange servers, or you can have some free email services provided by Gmail or Hotmail or Yahoo. Two different email systems are used today. An earlier email system uses the two TCP/IP protocols, which is the Simple Mail Transfer Protocol (SMTP) and the POP service, which used to be there in the emails. Now, IMAP, Internet Mail Access Protocol, is another protocol which is used in order to send and receive emails on the internet. Emails remains on the email server and not downloaded to the user computer. Mail can be organized into folders and files, and then it can be read from any device: desktop computers, tablets, or smartphones. So you'll have a client installed on your device, with the help of which you'll be reading the emails which are stored on the remote server, and you'll be downloading and you'll be notified as per the emails or whenever they'll arrive in your mailbox. There is an option in the emails where we can send different attachments, document as an email, encoded in a special format. It can be sent as a compressed file or directly as a PDF or Word, Excel sheet, or a PowerPoint file in a single transmission with an email. Now, there are lots of risks which are associated when we are using internet for these kind of services. These risks are could be different browser vulnerabilities depending what kind of browser you are using and whether it's updated or not. Malvertising is there. Then we have drive-by downloads, and then cookies and email risks. We'll be explaining it one by one in the next slide. In early days of web, users viewed static content information that does not change, like the documents, like the different pictures and the links and stuff which was appearing on the website. It would change only if the webmaster would change it, and if they want to change it, they'll have to go on each page and change that information. Today, with the demand, dynamic content is coming in, and the content changes, animations, customization, and lots of other things are coming on, which are backed up by a scripting language. Now, the computer code that commands the browser to perform specific operations, it could be a JavaScript, it could be a PHP script, or it could be ASP.NET or Python. Any language could be used. Now, the beauty in that is that the content can dynamically change, like all these pages in the background programming, they'll be linked to the main server or the main computer, which is controlling all the pages on the website. As soon as the information is changed at one point by a content management system, it would update the information on all pages. Just like if you want to update a link on a website, instead of going to every page and change the link on every page like in static websites, non-dynamic pages, if you'll update the link at one place, it would be updated on all pages. But there are some problems with the script which comes or is executed at a remote server. It would be downloaded on the computer, and then the person who's controlling the website can use different kind of malicious code which is embedded inside the code to take control over to the computer. Now, browse vulnerabilities is explained over there. That HTML document with the JavaScript is there. You are adding a power to the person or a stationary thing in order to move and do certain things on the computer. A JavaScript is embedded in an HTML document. It is executed by the browser. It would read it as a JavaScript and it would perform different operations depending what kind of script it is. Defense mechanisms are in place to prevent the JavaScript program from causing a serious harm to the computer. So it's not capable of doing things like deleting, creating files, or anything like that on the remote computer. Defense mechanism is in place to prevent the JavaScript program from causing a serious harm to the computer, and JavaScripts cannot read, write, or delete files from a local computer. A malicious JavaScript program can capture and send the user information without the user knowledge, but you must be aware of it. There are different settings on the computer with the help of which, or on the browser itself, with the help of which you can control the JavaScript and how it behaves on the computers. Now, these are the limited capabilities, the defenses, and the explanation what you must do if you have a limited capabilities of it. JavaScript does not support certain capabilities, for example, running on a local computer, or writing or deleting anything from there. There is a thing called sandboxing that only allows the script to run in a restricted environment, and it would do only that limited operations, and you'll be aware of it that this script is capable of doing these things and it won't do anything more than what it is supposed to do. Now, same origin is the defense restrict the script downloaded from a site A from accessing data that came from a site B, and that's it. So it won't be able to do anything more than that. Now we have extensions over here. Extensions are the small scripts which are downloaded and they perform different operations. Nowadays there are lots of scripts available out there which you can download in terms of plugins from Chrome store if you're using Chrome browser, or from Firefox Mozilla if you're using their browser. So they have their own plugins directory through which you can search different plugins which can be installed as extensions on the browser. Now they add lots of functionalities to the browser which does not natively come with the browser itself. Some of them are good, some of them are really dangerous for the computer, so it's highly recommended to download these extensions only from the approved stores of Google Chrome or Mozilla Firefox if you are using their browsers. It expands the normal capability of a web browser for a specific web page, must be written in a JavaScript, and generally have wider access privilege than the JavaScript. Now, the browser independent extensions work in Google Chrome but will not function in Microsoft Edge, but that has been changed now. If the browser has a Chromium engine, we call it, it will be able to install the extensions which are coming on Google Chrome. So that is working. I have tried a couple of extensions of Google Chrome on Microsoft Edge. It works perfectly fine. Now there are different plugins that add in functionality to the browser, so user can play music, play videos, capture the screenshots, or saving the files or uploading the files. And there are different JavaScripts as well, complete programming language used to create the small applications used. Then we have Java applet stored on the web servers and downloaded to the user computer. It can perform interactive animations, mathematical calculations, and other tasks very quickly, but nowadays there are not much Java applets available out there. That was taken over by Adobe Flash. Most of the applications were developed on it because they were natively handled by the browser itself, whereas in Java applets it was a core requirement that you need to install the Java runtime environment having certain version of it, and there were some compatibility issues as well, because the applets which were developed with the older version of Java usually don't work on the latest versions of the browser. So that's why Adobe Flash came in, and it's working perfectly fine, and now it is natively installed or is a part of the browser these days. Most widely used plugins are like Java, Adobe Flash, and Apple QuickTime, again it's gone, and even Microsoft Adobe Acrobat. I don't consider it under the Java applet. If they are mentioning about Flash, it should not be, because it's a completely different engine which is there. It requires different things rather than the Java applets. Now, a web server having an HTML document, for example, it has a Java applet, it's adding more capability to it. And now there are add-ons which are a greater degree of functionality to the entire browser, or just a single page or a plugin. It creates additional web browser toolbars, or it can change the menus and can add lots of functionalities which is not there as part of the browser that you are using. Now there are different capabilities, and they are talking about that. Extensions are the written JavaScripts. It's part of the web browser and the browser supported. Then we have the plugins which link to the programs outside the browser, and the capabilities that it can it is compatible with lots of different browsers, and they are playing things like audio, video, or PDF documents. And add-ons are the add-on features which adds functionality to a browser as part of the web, and only works with a specific browser. Dictionary and language packs are part of them. So in order to protect ourselves from any kind of problems related to the browser vulnerabilities, there are efforts being made to minimize the risk associated with the extensions, plugins, and add-ons. Some web browsers block the plugins, whereas others you can add different tools which can add functionality to the computer. Other browsers use click to play features that enables the plugin only if the user gives the approval, like the script would execute, but it would ask you that it is trying to run an application through the browser. Do you really want to play it? It won't automatically play it unless and until it would get an approval from the user. Now HTML5, which is recently introduced, quite powerful, and it is capable of running lots of file formats and standardized like sound and video format plugins, which comes in handy with HTML5, and we can use them comfortably on the websites. Next is malvertising. Attackers use third-party advertising network to distribute the malware. Actually, it's the malwares which are being pushed through the advertisement which appears on the computers. The procedure is that the websites are actually not running the advertisements, or they are not posting the advertisements on their websites. They have certain locations which are the areas on which they want to advertise, and then they contact some third-party companies which are experts in advertising and stuff. So their code would appear in these locations on the website. Now the owner of the website is usually not aware of what kind of advertisement would be running on their computers, but it's controlled by the third party or the companies who are actually advertising on your website. So what these guys would do is that they'll try to penetrate in the network of these advertising companies, and they'll mix their ads with the actual advertising company that you won't be even aware of. Even the owner of the website will not be aware of if the network of the advertisement company has been compromised, and they'll start displaying different kind of malicious coded advertisements or anything like that on the websites. As soon as the user clicks on it, that code is downloaded on the computer, and then they get affected. So attackers use third-party advertisement networks to distribute the malware through ads sent to the user computer through the browsers, because that space was there for advertisement. Now, who will be running an advertisement over there, and if that's authentic or not, they take the benefit of it. Advantages for the attacker is it occurs on big name websites like Walmart or Target or any other big websites which are there, which are promoting different things. So if you'll see an advertisement which is appearing on their website, you might think that it's authentic, and once you'll click on it, that code would be downloaded on your computer. Usually website owners are unaware of the malware that is being distributed to their website. Ad networks rotate content quickly, making it difficult to determine if malvertising was the culprit of the attack, because it would appear, it would leave an impression on thousands of computers, and then it would be changed. So you don't know actually which ad appeared on it. due to which this problem occurred on your machine. Attackers can narrowly target the victims. For example, if they are constantly checking that people have been searching for the gaming equipment or sports equipment or anything like that, they'll keep on targeting specific kind of advertisements on the websites, which would be embedded with some malicious code at the back end. Now, as you can see that a victim is accessing a website, and there is a reputable ad network which is sending or displaying different advertisements on the website. Now there is an attacker ad network through which he is also trying to target the same website and trying to play with the settings or the advertisers network to display their ads with the reputable company, so you cannot see actually what is appearing on the remote computers. So that's it for today. We'll be covering rest of the things in our next lecture. Thank you very much.